Leela Oakley, and I am the Outreach and Engagement Manager with Just Faith Ministries. And we're excited to talk to you today a little bit about our Want to Talk program. And I'm joined by Kristen Dollar, our program director. And Kristen's going to get us started with some prayer. So welcome. We're glad to have you with us.
This is one of my very favorite poems, and it is also in our program. It's called Between. Let us pray together. God is not in me nor in you, but between us. God is not me or mine, nor you or yours, but ours. God is known not alone, but in relationship. Not as a separate, lonely power, but through our kinship, our friendship, through our healing and binding and raising up of each other. To know God is to know others. To love God is to love others. To hear God is to hear others. More than meditation, more than insight, more than feeling, between us are claims, obligations, commandments to act, to do, to behave our beliefs. I seek God not as if God were alone, an isolated person, he or she, a process, a power, a being, a thing. I seek God not as if I were alone, a thinker, a mediator, a discrete entity. I seek God in connection, in the nexus of community. I pray and celebrate the betweenness which binds and holds us together. And even when I'm left alone, I'm sustained by my memory of our betweenness and the promise of our betweenness. God is not in me or in you or in God's self, but in betweenness. And it is there that we find the evidence of God's reality and our own. Amen. Thank you all again for being here. I don't know about you, but I was driven to and really compelled to start researching and writing this program because I'm just feeling the weight of our nation's polarization, which has trickled down to my own personal relationships so deeply. And I'm so grateful to have gotten to research this work. And so I hope that this program will be as helpful to you as it has been for me. I want to get started by just explaining a little bit about who we are. Is there anybody here who is completely new to Just Faith Ministries, never taken a program or been to one of our events before? Well, just in case, this is a quote here by our founder, Jack Jezreel, but we write programs for folks to facilitate in their own communities, either virtually or in person. Our goal is really to inspire and equip people of faith to work for justice. And that is what we're seeking to do here in this program. Leela, you can go to the next slide. We offer a wide variety of programs on a lot of different topics, and so you can see them here and you can read more about them on our website. So that's just a little bit about who we are at Just Faith Ministries. But zooming back into Want to Talk, communication tools for divided times. We wrote this program. I want to tell you just a little bit about why we wrote this program, because I think it'll really help you to understand the heart of it and what it's all about. We had just finished up a series on racial justice, and we were hearing from folks that they really had their eyes open to the injustices that were taking place in their communities and in our nation. And they wanted to be able to talk to their loved ones and people in their communities and people empowered to be able to make change. They wanted to be able to talk to folks about their experience, but they didn't really have the tools to do that. And at the same time, how many of you are in maybe a congregation or a denomination that's just having a hard time talking about tough topics? I don't know, I'm United Methodist. We have a lot of folks who are Catholic on our staff, and we just feel like a lot of us feel like we lack the tools to be able to do this in a healthy way. And you want to be able to talk about it. It's your church community, this is your family, right? So we also wanted to equip folks for that reason as well. And those are two really like community related reasons. And I'll say I kind of went into this with those two reasons in mind, but realized that everything that I was learning was so personally transformative because it completely changed the way that I related to the person that I live with, my friends, with my family. And so the third reason is to help folks to navigate their relationships, especially with people who think differently than they do, and to navigate conflict and to seek seek healthier ways of communicating with one another.
Hi, I'm doing a Zoom meeting.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So just a little bit, this is just a summary of our program. Like I said, it helps folks to deepen relationships while also holding on to those values that we hold dear. Those values like our commitment to racial justice, to immigration and immigration justice, to ending poverty, things like that, to be able to be in relationship with people who think differently than we do, while also showing up authentically and remaining true to those commitments that we have as Christians. It draws upon the experts of nonviolent communication, civil dialogue, and grassroots organizing. And we really hope that this will provide tools that are really practical for you as you navigate the polarization that you're experiencing in our nation, and also in maybe even in your families and personal relationships as well. I just want to say thanks for some of the folks who really helped us with this program. You can see our two program consultants, Dr. Lewis Brogdon. Has anybody been to a webinar with Dr. Brogdon? He's done some awesome webinars for us. Yeah. Andrea, I see you've been to one. That's awesome. And Corey Lockhart, she was my predecessor, and has anybody done our nonviolence program? Well, that's another one of our programs that she actually wrote. And so she does a lot of teaching and consulting around nonviolence and nonviolent communication. And also Maggie Jezreel, like more unofficially, played a huge role in putting this program together. And last but not least, our partner, Bread for the World, who supports us in all that we do. And so here are their program goals, and this kind of will sort of help you with the overviews. The first one is to learn how Jesus navigated these, some of these same issues that we're dealing with today. They have not gone away after all this time. So that's the first one. The second one is to learn communication tools for seeking justice, regardless of if climate policy is your passion, or ending racial injustice, or ending poverty. Regardless of what you're passionate about, we hope that this program will help you to have the tools that you need to talk to people who are in power and in decision-making roles, and also the people that you're working with, and learning to mobilize folks. The third goal is to navigate disagreement in a healthier way when we are faced with conflict, as we all are. How can we do this in a way that is true to our values, both in our personal daily relationships, and as we're working for systemic change. The cool thing about this program is you get an opportunity, assuming that you talk to someone every day, you get an opportunity to practice these skills every single day of your life, which I think is pretty cool, and also difficult. And the last goal is to strengthen communication skills for assisting divided congregations and organizations and community, and moving from us and them to a greater sense of shared vision. I'm just going to briefly go through the sessions in this program, just to kind of give you a deeper dive into some of this program's content. Session 1, laying the foundation, is laying the theological, laying down the theological principles behind nonviolent communication. And it gets into some of the principles of Dr. King, Gandhi, and Jesus. And we talk about the impact that violent communication has had on us and on our community, so that we can begin to move toward the beloved community and the kingdom of God. Speaking of session 2, moving towards the beloved community. I don't know if you've noticed, but as I've researched this work, a lot of language around shame and blame have come up, and can really see that it is at the core of conversations on a political level and also on an interpersonal level. And so if we can move beyond shame and blame and work on recognizing the judgments that we're having about one another, we can move toward greater love of God and of our neighbors, right? Session 3 is about listening. How many of you all think of yourselves as being pretty good listeners? I know I do, or at least I did. Yeah. Well, how many of you all know somebody who thinks that they're a really amazing listener and maybe is not so great of a listener, maybe even interrupts you from time to time to let you know how great of a listener they are? Well, I'm sure most of us know one of these folks. And so the goal for session 3 is for us to not be that person. But we all can stand to benefit from greater listening skills. Listening can be such a meaningful spiritual practice of learning to see the image of God in the person who we're communicating with, and learning to do this even when we vehemently disagree with someone. That's an incredible spiritual practice. So yeah, and session 4 is empathy for justice. Can you think of anybody who maybe has been with you and it's just not during a moment of pain or joy in your life, and how important that was for you? Again, this can be a really profound spiritual experience that many of us have had. And so this session helps us to empathize and remain in empathy even when we don't disagree with someone, or maybe we can't relate to their experiences. And it also teaches us how to empathize with the impact of injustice, even when we don't understand completely, when we haven't been there ourselves. Session 5 is about anger and how to navigate anger, and how we can do that in a healthy way. Session 6 is about requesting change. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation like maybe a certain someone has left their dirty socks on the floor for 3 days, or maybe, on an advocacy standpoint, you've like repeatedly called your representative every day to ask for better climate decisions, and you're just getting a no, right? It's so frustrating. So what do you do when the answer is no? So this is session 7 will give you some tools for when you are, after you've making a request in the best possible way, and also learning how to proceed forward when you don't get the answer that you'd hoped you'd received. Session 8 is what next? And in this session, participants will discern how they can commit to holy conversation, both in their personal relationships and also as they work for justice. And so there'll be some advocacy opportunities here for civil dialogue and justice and advocacy. There's a variety of different resources in this program. You can see the books here. The compassion book it has short little chapters that are very practical, that Tom Bond, the author, provides some very relatable life experiences of navigating strong emotions and conflict, and gives some very practical homework assignments and spiritual practices that participants will engage in throughout the week. And then the second book is called Crucial Conversations. It's the 3rd edition. It's actually a book that I was a little bit skeptical at first, because it's a book that many businesses actually use. But we really wanted something, this is a very spiritually based program, and we really wanted to include something that was very nuts and bolts. Like, what do you actually say and do when you are in the heat of the moment? Well, this Crucial Conversations gives some really practical tools for navigating disagreement. Other resources include, another huge source of wisdom throughout this program are articles, and there's a couple videos as well by Dr. Roxy Manning, who is a facilitator of nonviolent communication. And she also has a pretty big emphasis on racial justice, which is really important in this program as well. And I will now turn it over to Leela.
Thanks, Kristen. So the Want to Talk program, like many of our other programs at Just Faith Ministries, is 8 sessions plus an immersion experience. So there's 9 different sessions where the group will gather together. The sessions are 2 hours in length, which includes a short break. The immersion experience for this program is a little different. The program materials actually provide the facilitators with 2 different suggested options. One of those being inviting a guest speaker who can speak about the ways in which they incorporate nonviolent communication and civil dialogue in their work for justice. The other option is actually to have each of the participants engage in the tools that they've learned through this program in a conversation with another person. That could be anyone in their life, to engage around a crucial conversation, a challenging conversation, and to practice the tools that they've been reading and learning about over the course of those 6 or 7 sessions before the immersion experience. Most groups so far have taken that route for the immersion experience, and the feedback that I've heard just anecdotally from facilitators so far has been really positive for folks to have a space to try on these skills and then to report back to the group about how it went and process their experience. The program is designed to be used by small groups. We recommend between 7 and 14 individuals for in-person groups and 7 to 12 for virtual groups, including the facilitators. The program is available in a virtual and an in-person format. So if you want to meet via Zoom with folks from all across the country, you can, or you could meet in person with a group of folks in your own faith community. If you need to, you could do a hybrid model where you, for example, maybe met in person for the immersion and then met virtually for your regular sessions if you need to do that. In between those 8 sessions, there are weekly assignments, which are primarily coming from the books and resources Kristen just spoke about. So there are readings from the chapter and spiritual practices where people can wrestle with the material to learn and to grow midweek, and then come together in their weekly sessions to process and share with one another. Those weekly assignments take on average about an hour. It really just depends on how quickly someone takes in information or how much time they want to spend with the material. So you could spend significantly more time than that, or if you are a quick read, you can maybe spend a little bit less. The sessions follow a similar model to our other programs, where there's an opening and closing prayer. There's time for dialogue around the weekly assignments. There might be an activity or a video that's watched in session with accompanying dialogue. The main focus here is on learning from one another. So taking the learning that's been done through the week, processing and sharing it with one another, and then gaining wisdom and insight from the experiences of fellow group members. So kind of logistics, what next? If you're interested in the program, the first step is to register for the program. It's $250 right now, and that's a one-time fee that a group pays that gives you access to the program for a calendar year. The only additional cost is a cost of books for participants, which is the 2 books that were on the previous slide. And if my memory isn't failing me, I think it's around $35. I can confirm that in a moment. So that's the only additional cost for participants. Once you've registered for the program, you get immediate access to the facilitator manual and the participant packet in your online account and can begin the preparation process. You can decide at that point whether you want to meet virtually or in person and identify the facilitators for the small group. We recommend having 2 facilitators per small group. And those individuals need to be willing people who are willing to make the extra commitment to prepare for the sessions and to lead the sessions. We provide scripts for the facilitators. There's voluntary training if facilitators would like to be trained for their role available. And then I'm available on an ongoing basis for support. So if you choose to take on that role, you're not doing it alone. You can then set the start date and begin the recruitment process. This program, like our other programs, has a promotion toolkit available where you can download various marketing tools to promote the program to your local community or to promote it online, including things like bulletin announcements, social media posts, material, and even scripted emails that you could send out to friends or family or colleagues, inviting them to join you on this journey. I will make one note here that in the future, hopefully later this summer, we will be changing our registration model. We don't have a set date yet. As soon as we do, we'll release information about this change through Just News and other online communications through Just Faith Ministries. But what this change will mean is that this program, along with our other programs, will no longer have one large registration fee of $250. But instead, there will be a small individual fee that every participant will be asked to pay to go through one of the programs. Each small group will be given 2 free facilitator registrations, so the co-facilitators can participate in the program free of charge as our way of thanking them for their time and commitment. And then, like I said, each participant will pay on a sliding fee scale based on their financial situation to participate in the program. Again, we don't have a firm date for that yet, but it will be later this summer. There'll be plenty of notice of that change, but I just want to give you that heads up as you're considering whether you'll do the program this summer or wait until the fall. That shift might happen as you're making that decision. So with all that said, we'd love to answer any of your remaining questions about the program, about how to get started, or about Just Faith Ministries in general. So if you have a question, feel free to send it in the chat or unmute and ask away.
I have a question. In the early about 2015 or no, 2010, I participated in one of your early programs of Just Faith. Are those early programs still available?
I can speak to that. Welcome back, by the way. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
It's always good to hear. It's always good to hear someone who's been around for a while with us. Those programs are still available in their original version. However, I will say I would recommend maybe doing one of our current programs, as the information would be a bit outdated from that time, and especially when we're talking about the social issues like that program. If you're speaking about the one I'm thinking about, it talked about poverty, about environmental issues, about race and immigration issues, likely, and so a lot of that information has changed.
Right.
And so we could definitely help you to pick programs that are more current, that would sort of reflect the experience that you had in 2010.
Mm-hmm. I think what I liked about the original one that I did was that it incorporated several of the issues that you now have divided up into different segments. It had racial issues and poverty and economic issues and spiritual practice. And it was kind of encompassed everything, but it was a long time ago because I think we had videos.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing is we can certainly dig out that old program. It might be a little bit difficult to get a hold of some of those older. I think there's some DVDs and that, and some of the books and resources might not be in print. But another option is that you can. There's the programs that we offer are now shorter, and so you could choose 3 of them. And 3 or 4 of them and do them sequentially and maybe take a little break in between if you wanted. So just a thought.
Yeah, that's good. So what's the best way to contact you?
We can put our emails in the chat. I will also be sending a follow-up email tomorrow, and that'll come from not my personal email, my work email, and will include my name, email, and phone number. And I'm really probably your best bet moving forward to be able to guide you as you're discerning what program's a good fit for your community, and then help you get set up and registered. If you have questions that I'm unable to answer, I can then direct you to Kristen or another staff member for additional support. So again, I'll put my email in the chat, but then you can expect that email tomorrow from me.
What I loved about the program was that it was ecumenical. I mean, I'm a Lutheran minister, and I went and did it at the Catholic Church, and we had an amazing experience together. So I want to bring that to my Episcopal church now that I'm involved in. So I'll be in touch. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Great.
Hello.
Hi, Kathy.
Good afternoon. Hi, Andrea. I just wanted to ask, I've always benefited from actually going through the segments, a program as a participant before I did help with co-facilitation. And I wonder if you've got any advice. That, to me, that seemed like the very best way, but that's the only way I know. Do you have any thoughts about co-facilitating before you've actually participated?
Great question, Kathy. I would agree with you. That's kind of the ideal, because you that are familiar with the material, really familiar with it because you've gone through the program, and that can help set you up for success facilitating. But that is definitely not necessary. We don't expect or anticipate that even we would anticipate the vast majority have not participated in the program before facilitating. And if you go that route, I think the way that you can have similar success is by getting the material in enough advance that you can thoroughly review it. So it's not the same, Kathy, as you know, as being a full participant in the program, but you could even, if you really wanted to read ahead in the books, you could go through the facilitator material with a fine-tooth comb, so you have a real idea of the curves and turns of the program to allow you to facilitate each session more effectively. So you could just take that prep time in advance, less than you would to fully participate, but more than just picking it up a week before the start date of your group.
I definitely will have eyes on how this model is going to change from the one-time fee to the individual participants too. So I may be doing this, but I know I'm going to be contacting Andrea to see what she's up to here, thinking of the parish environment. I also am involved in a Benedictine monastery environment as a Benedictine oblate. You know, we talk about listening. That's the first word in the rule of Benedict, actually, is listen. So yes, but you always begin again with learning to listen. So thank you for the information.
Absolutely.
Very glad for this opportunity. Thanks.
Absolutely. And Kathy, or anyone else on the call, if you'd like to know a little bit more about the change in the registration model, respond back to the email I sent tomorrow, and I'd be happy to have a more in-depth conversation and kind of think through what that would look like for your community specifically. Since that's not the focus of our meeting today, I just wanted to flag it, but I'd be happy to speak more about it.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, like I have said a few times now, I'll be in touch tomorrow. So if a question comes up, don't hesitate to reach out. We're more than happy to chat with you about anything that you'd like answered. But we really appreciate you spending some time with us today, and for your commitment to justice, for your interest in a program on civil dialogue. We believe it's important, and we appreciate having you here with us today. Hope you'll have a good rest of your afternoon, and we'll be in touch soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.